Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. It is another amazing Tuesday morning, and it is so hot and humid here in Toronto. I'm surprised that my hair is not like Monica from Friends as it should be. I can't remember where they were in that episode. I think they were in Hawaii, and her hair was like all the way out here. And mine probably should be right now, too, because of all the humidity. Anyways, my name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain. I am also the host of the Blended podcast, which is the newest conversation in diversity and inclusion. And really happy that you guys could join us today. We've got lots going on. We've got some brand new announcements coming out on this episode today. We also have some announcements on our Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page later today as well. So many things going on. I guess we should just get right to it. So the episode this week is our Woman in Supply Chain series. And I got to talk to Shauna Zhang, and she is in charge of logistics at Wayfair. And her story is amazing. She went into banking, and then she was in tech, and now she's in freight and logistics over at Wayfair. So if you haven't checked out that episode, make sure to go and check that out wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, or you can go over to letstalksupplychain.com/podcast. We've also got our category filter, which I usually mention. So if you've got a supply chain challenge and you're looking for a solution for that challenge, make sure to go and check out our category filter, because we've probably done an episode on what you are looking for. And if you go to the website within the next couple of days, I want to let you know that we've got a brand new website coming out in the next couple of days, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. So that is the episode of the week. What else have we got going on? We've got a Woman in Supply Chain blog coming out on July 20th as well. Plus, we also announced last week, I don't know if you guys missed this, but we announced our expansion into Asia Pac. And so we are now going to have a podcast called Let's Talk Supply Chain Asia Pac, and it is hosted by Jonathan over in Sydney, Australia. And we're going to focus on supply chains in the Asia Pacific region. So excited. So that was a bit of a soft launch. He's just getting everything ready to launch within the next month or so with some brand new episodes. If you haven't yet gone over to the Let's Talk Supply Chain Asia Pac LinkedIn page, go over there and start following them so that you can get notified when we have a new episode as well. And then we've got some new events coming up. I mean, we're in July, we're going into August, so we don't have a ton coming out, but we do have Manifest coming out in January. That's going to be live and in person in Vegas. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be doing some stuff on the ground. I'm going to be doing some podcast episodes. I'm also going to be moderating a panel. So hopefully I will see you there as well. All right, so now I think it is time. Well, before I let you know who's actually joining me today, I should let you know that our follower of the month. So remember a couple of weeks ago, I told you that we were going to do some giveaways. Well, today is the day. So whoever engaged with us the most in the last month is going to get a giveaway from Let's Talk Supply Chain. And we're going to be announcing that winner later on today on our Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. So if you want to know who the winner is, come back and see us on the LinkedIn page. All right. So who is our guest for today? Well, it's Eric Johnson, all the way from India, guys. I mean, hey, Eric.
Hey, Sarah, burning the midnight oil. Well, not the midnight, the late evening oil. So, yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited that you're back, and we've got some exciting news to share with everybody as well. I kind of made mention to it on a couple of episodes ago, but I'm so glad that you could join us. What time is it there in India?
It is 7:34 in the evening, so not too late.
And you work pretty late while you're over there, right? You keep our...
I do. Yeah, I try to sync with North America and a little bit with Europe. So, but it's a late night culture here, so it kind of fits in. It's too hot to go out during the day anyway. So.
Oh, that's true. How hot is it there right now?
It must be around 100 every day, if not 105. Yeah, it's warm. It's warm. Oven not required.
So for everybody who doesn't know you, why don't you let them know who you are? And then also announce our big announcement. We can talk a little bit about that as well.
Sure. So I am for those of you who don't know me, I'm the senior technology editor at the Journal of Commerce, or JOC. You can find me at joc.com. That's where most of my stuff posts. I have a Substack as well that comes out every Friday. And I write about logistics technology, basically. So I'm writing about a whole huge range of things, both domestic and international, around domestic and international logistics. There is like absolutely no shortage of topics and categories and companies to write about. I try to take the tack of helping people who are in a decision-making kind of set state of mind around what to invest in and when to invest and what type of system to invest in. I hope to make things a little clearer for them. That's always my goal with everything that I write and do. So yeah, and that probably leads nicely into the announcement today. So do you want me to spill the beans, or you want me? All right. Yeah. So we are launching a new show on Sarah's network called LogTech Live, and could not be more excited. It is, you know, yeah, there you go. As if you needed two pictures of me at the same time. Wow, you're going to be seeing a lot of me. So no, but it's going to be great because I get one of the things about my job that's really cool, but it's really hard to sort of fully explore in the written word, is I get to have a ton of really insanely interesting conversations with a lot of really smart people. And so the hope with this show is that we get to bring some of that cool conversation that gets locked inside my brain a lot of times to a broader audience. So it should be really fun. Those of you who know me know I like a bit of humor as well. So it will not be too stiff and it will not be too dry. We will make it fun, and we'll have a lot of cool guests. There's a lot of people out there who deserve a little, sort of spot in the sunshine with some of the things they're doing, and can't wait to dig in.
I am so excited. So just so everybody knows, the first Friday of every month. So that's going to start in August. Our first episode is going to be August 6th. And Eric's going to have a guest every single time. He's going to go live at 10 a.m. Eastern until 10:45 a.m. Eastern. And we are super, super excited to have you, Eric. So congratulations. I can't wait to see. It's going to be once a month, although I think we might be able to nudge him into twice a month, but we'll see how that goes.
We'll see. Baby steps. Baby steps. One episode a month sounds like a lot right now, so we'll we'll ease into it.
And Jeffrey has already said he's setting the calendar date, so super excited about that. I want to say hi to a couple of people over on my personal LinkedIn page. We've got Tarpan, Mohammed, Tajul, Bali, Andrea, and we've got Brian Glick, who is also sponsoring the LogTech Live with Eric Johnson. He's over on my personal LinkedIn page, and we can't be more proud of having Chain.io sponsoring your show as well. So super, super excited about that. All right. We've also got we've got some new people to the show too. Look, Bryant saying, looking forward to the show. Nick Cloverdale is with us, 10 p.m. Hong Kong time. And Rhonda is super excited about your show as well. All right. So let's talk about the question of the week. So the question of the week this week, we do ask this every single Wednesday across all of our social media. And the question is, if you had a 1-year sabbatical from your current position, what would you be doing? Eric.
So, I'm the first one to answer this.
Yes.
How about start my own space exploration company and launch myself into space? Has anyone been doing that lately? No, I
think you should do that. Okay, money is no object here.
Yeah, money is no object. Oh, so if money is no object, yeah, well, definitely I would do that. I would always want it. I've actually always wanted to go to space, so just been a little bit short on the cash. Honestly, I think I would probably write a book, because I wouldn't want to get out of practice of writing for 12 months. And I've always sort of told myself at some point I would write a book. So if you gave me 12 months and you said I had to like be productive during that, I would probably try to write a book.
Awesome. Well, if you go to space, you're going to have to take Audrey with you, because
Yes.
Audrey is obsessed with going to space. She wants to spend money on going to space rather than buying a house. So
let's
she's
do
ready.
it. We can just have a whole, like, we can just have a geek out on logistics while floating in zero gravity.
Yes. And you can come back and tell us all about the space logistics, right? Because I think that would make a really awesome show. Rhonda says traveling the world and exploring rainforests. Peter says travel the globe and golf in each destination. See, I would go to baseball stadiums in different cities. That's what I would do. Davin says extend my road trip by 11 months. And Brian says maybe cooking. I'm a foodie. Oh, I love that. I think for me, I'd probably be doing the same thing just because I really love what I'm doing, but I would take it to different places. So I am very much an experience girl and over things. Right. So I'd really like to take each one of my family members on different experiences. I just finished watching the amazing Vacation Rentals on Netflix. It's a new show on Netflix.
I heard this is really cool. I saw the preview for this. So
I would probably take the 12 months if money was no object, and I would go to every single one of those places that they showed on that show. So that's what I would do. That's what I would do. All right. So let's get back to my thoughts and coffee posts. So on Sundays, I actually share a leadership post a little bit more, talking about what I'm feeling for the week. And so last Sunday, I decided to post about believing in yourself, right? Be you, believe in yourself, and some practical tips that have helped me believe in myself. It is still a journey. Let me tell you, every single day, still gotta, pump myself up and, talk to myself in good ways, right? Instead of the bad ways. And so it's still a journey for me, but I wanted to share some of the things that have helped me. So Eric, what did you think about this post when I tagged you? I tagged you a little late, but I know you've had some time to reflect.
Yeah. So I will freely admit I'm not one. There's so much information out there about self-improvement. I'm like really bad at this. So actually sitting down and reading these, I was kind of like, oh, wow, maybe I should have been reading more of this advice all along. These are all actually good things to think about. I think, I think one of the hardest things with belief is getting over imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Right. Oh, so, and I'm like a perfect example. Somehow people want to talk to me about logistics, which I've never worked in logistics. They want to talk to me about technology. I could not code 2 things if you asked me to. If you gave me all day, I couldn't figure out how to code. And yet, somehow like people are like, oh, go to Eric. He knows about logistics technology. So definitely belief in yourself is something you can't just like wave a magic wand and say, believe in yourself, right? You just have to have a confidence, and some of it comes with time. Some of it comes with validation from others. As much as we'd like to think, it comes internally, it obviously comes from others. But you have to, one of the things is you have to get over imposter syndrome. And one of the ways to do that is to realize that almost everyone is not as smart as they make themselves out to be, or as they seem from the outside looking in. Like everybody is struggling to understand something. And so you can always, we're all like puzzle pieces that are kind of fitting into one another. So that was, after reading it, I was kind of like, yeah, these are all great, tips. And I think the big thing is, especially in like area where I am with technology, where there's a lot of kind of false bravado, and there's a lot of, this is going to save the world and we're going to solve all the problems. There's a lot of people with imposter syndrome, because it's kind of uncharted territory for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I'm glad that you brought that up because it changes every single day. Like one day you could wake up and you're like, I'm going to conquer the world. And the next day you're like, what the hell? What am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Right?
Good time.
So I think that happens for everybody. And I think, sometimes, especially with social media, we get caught up with what is out there and what people put out there that they would like us to see, which is not necessarily the reality for everybody. And I think once you take a step back and you look at yourself and you work on those things that maybe can help you through those days, not the ones where you're like, hey, I'm ready, I'm going to take on the world, but those days when you wake up and say, who am I to do this? Like, should I really be doing this? Those are the days when those tools and all of those conversations are really going to come into play. So that's why I really wanted to share that with everybody on Sunday. It sounded like it resonated with a lot of people because we got a lot of really great feedback. And so I appreciate you for bringing up imposter syndrome and being open and vulnerable. Davin says, get out of my head. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Maybe that means that I'm totally saying everything that he's thinking. I don't know. But Davin, if you want to elaborate on that, I'd love to know. Anyway.
But believe that's what he was saying.
Exactly all right, so let's get to our supply chain topics. Are you ready? So the first one is about Tractor Supply. So Tractor Supply has come out and said on CNBC has said inflation and supply chain delays will be challenges for the foreseeable future. Eric, I don't know about you, but I'm getting questions all the time about how long is this going to last? How far into 2022 are we going to have to be dealing with this? And I think it's coming from all angles, small to mid-sized businesses, enterprise businesses. Everybody's sort of wondering, when is this going to kind of go back to normal? The Tractor Supply CEO is saying, this is our foreseeable future, guys. We need to double down and figure out what we're going to do. So what are you hearing in the industry? What do you think about this, Eric?
So I'm obviously super interested in this topic. I should have a caveat that I am not covering kind of the market dynamics around capacity and pricing nearly as closely as some of my colleagues at the JOC do. They are like knee deep in this every single day. That said, I ask everyone that I talk to after I get done talking about tech, I'm like, hey, what are you seeing in the market? Right. So I sort of have a bit, and I swear I'm not doing this to just be, what's the right word? To be sort of counterintuitive on it, or to be, I'm spacing on the word I'm trying to say, but I'm not trying to be, go against the grain on this. But I think everyone has a bit of a recency sort of bias around what the current crisis is going to look like long term. And I say that because my history of now going on 2 decades of covering this space is every single prediction made from a point of extremes has never turned out right. So like when I first started covering logistics, it was 2003. And one of the very first interviews I did was with the then Port of Long Beach executive director. And they had in their boardroom, they had this big, on a poster board, it said, I think it was called Vision 2020 at that point, right?
Okay.
And it was, and at that point they were expecting a tripling of container volume into Long Beach alone.
Really?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
That didn't come to fruition, but that was 4 years after, or was it 2 years after China was admitted to the WTO, right? So there was all this volume coming from China, and the thinking was this was just going to go on forever. Then the recession, 2009, right? Container shipping nosedive. This is the end of global trade as we know it. The beginning of COVID, trade does a nosedive. This is the beginning of the end of globalization. Like we aren't going to need so much. And then it flipped around in like 5 months. So I think we have a long slog ahead of us, but I also think the market will sort of correct itself a lot quicker than most people think. And I may even be going against like my own parent company's economists on this, but from what I've seen, they have a little bit more kind of optimistic view of 2022 than a lot of other people do. So
well, you
take that for what it's worth.
You heard it here, guys, and we're going to hold Eric Johnson
Please.
accountable for that statement.
And if I was wrong, I can say I was never an economist. Why were you listening to me in the first place? So,
well, you did do a nice disclaimer at the beginning of that, so I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So we're going to have the articles in the comments. AJ, if you want to put the articles in the comments for everybody. One of the things that was surprising to me was that it talks about labor shortages in China. So I know we're dealing with a lot of labor shortages here in North America, but we hadn't really heard about labor shortages in China. It was more about the raw materials and being able to get the raw materials for the finished goods. But now they're coming out and talking about a labor shortage in China as well, which is pretty interesting and obviously is going to contribute to a lot of those disruptions as well. All right. So our next article is from Supply Chain Dive, and we're talking about the Wilmington Air Park. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, and because there's a lot of really interesting stats in here. We've been talking a lot about ocean freight. Haven't really talked a lot about air freight since Peloton came out and said they were going to spend $100 million to fly their bikes over to North America, which was insane. But what they're talking about in here is cargo-focused hubs. So rather than having passenger and cargo airports, they're talking about having airports strictly related to cargo because the volumes have gone up by 31% between 2019 and 2020. And I'm sure by the time we get to the end of the year and they give us some stats on 2020 into 2021, it's going to be even higher than that. But what they're saying about Wilmington, which I thought was also really interesting. So Amazon has taken over DHL's part of the Wilmington Air Park, and they've taken it over with Amazon Air. So my question to you is, would you use Amazon Air to move your cargo? I've heard that Amazon is getting into the ocean freight market. I knew that they had some, thoughts around air, but I guess now it's come to fruition in Amazon Air. But Wilmington, it says that 60 to 70% of the US population is within a 1-hour flight. It also talks about how Amazon is using Amazon Air on general inventory. They haven't talked about necessarily using Amazon Air to the general enterprise market, I guess, or the business market, but I'm guessing that's probably coming. And they're saying that they're not competing with FedEx and UPS because they don't really have like an overnight flight thing that they're going after. So anyway, there's a lot of information in this article. That's kind of what I took away from it. What did you think about this, Eric?
Yeah, well, first of all, shout out to Matt at Supply Chain Dive. There's a really in-depth article on a very kind of nuanced subject. So I think the key question, and you sort of alluded to it, is to what extent are Amazon ambitions around being a kind of a true 3PL as opposed to just building a logistics infrastructure to serve both its own needs as a shipper and also the sellers that it empowers through its marketplace.
Yeah.
I think that the question around our airports, or should there be like cargo dedicated airports, is almost like absolutely resounding yes at this point, right? I mean the e-com like evolution, or I mean evolution makes it sound like it's slow. The crush of e-com is only going one direction, and that necessitates more air freight through hubs that aren't necessarily congested with passenger and with other types of parcel activity, and ones that aren't impacted by bad weather systems. And so I think this is located in that little alley of Memphis and Louisville and Cincinnati, right? That appears to be like the right kind of center of gravity for dispersing, aggregating air freight to disperse it to the population. So I think DHL might be like kicking themselves for not making it and sticking it out and holding on to that kind of, because they'd be making hay right now.
So true. It's so true. Rhonda said, I hope you're right, Eric.
Which part?
I don't know, but we're definitely holding you to account throughout this whole conversation.
Oh, maybe this is about the, I'm glad, maybe this was about my prediction that rates won't like stay at $30,000 per container forever. I'm glad Brian's bringing up Rickenbacker. I meant to bring that up. I used to do stories about Rickenbacker all the time, and that was their sort of model too, was like, we are going to be a pure cargo airport. We're not going to mix, passengers and freight. This is just going to be a easy, clean cargo conduit for that area. So, yeah,
and
that's the hub.
Peter says airlines will be filling this gap once their freighter fleet conversions are completed. Air Canada is pushing hard to convert 767s and B777s.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So we are down to our final topic. So let's talk about this. This one is near and dear to my heart because of everything that we're doing on Blended. So Best Buy plans to spend $1.2 billion on diverse suppliers across its business. So the question I have for you in the audience, how are you working towards a more diverse supplier base? In this article, they talked about how Best Buy was looking at how Target has come out and said that they're going to spend $2 billion with BIPOC enterprises. And then Proximo, I think it mentions Proximo. Anyway, they did some data around jobs being created around diversifying your suppliers. And so they said $1 million spent on diverse suppliers actually creates 10 jobs. Which I think is a really, really important stat here, because if we're talking internally about increasing our diverse supplier base or not, or maybe we're talking about that being something that you're going to concentrate on in about 18 months instead of right now, that stat is going to be really important to you as a champion within your own business or within your company to really talk about diversifying your supplier base. And what they're also saying in this article is that you need to make it part of procurement. So a lot of times organizations are taking this concept and they're making it outside of procurement. They're making it its own little department. And what they're saying is that really doesn't do any good and it doesn't drive enough change. And so they want to see this actually being part of the procurement process and being part of the procurement team as well. So Eric, what did you think about this? And Peter, I got my 4-minute warning. Thank you.
So first of all, I just wanted to again note the author on this one. Ben, funny story. I tried to hire Ben when I was at American Shipper. I tried to hire Ben Unglesby and he ended up going to Retail Dive. So I'm glad to see he's doing good stuff there. It's a small world. The story I think is important. Obviously, I sort of gravitated to a couple things, both metrics based. So one thing that I struggle with is when companies commit to a certain dollar figure, that doesn't give me the context for what their total spend is on that area that they're trying to diversify. So, if Target says 2 billion or Best Buy says 1.2 billion, obviously that's a lot of money in absolute terms, but I don't know if that's out of 100 billion that they normally spend or 10 billion or 2 billion, right? So the trouble is it's tough to get that top line number from a company because they don't necessarily want to signal to the market how much they spend on XYZ. But so that makes it difficult for me to like understand whether those are window dressing or kind of actual, earnest endeavors. I mean, I think every little bit helps, but we kind of need big action, whether we're talking about climate, whether we're talking about diversity, whether we're talking about anything that's meaningful these days. The days of kind of just like having a mission statement and putting a little budget to it. And the point about procurement, I think, is absolutely right. Like, how do you not make supplier decisions part of the procurement team's, responsibility, right? I mean, it seems crazy that would be sitting outside of procurement for anybody.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. So Brian brings up a good point. Tealbook is doing a lot of work in this area. And actually, I just got finished filming my LinkedIn Learning course, which is about the foundations of sustainable supply chains. And I talk a lot about this in this course. And I actually talk about Tealbook as being an example of that, because they are a really, really good example of how they can empower procurement teams to really be able to get behind something like this and really take the action and diversify their supplier base, because sustainability starts with procurement, and so does DEI, and so does supplier diversity and all of that as well. So anyways, we are 30 seconds over, Peter. I apologize for that, but thank you all for joining me today and joining Eric and I today on this episode. Audrey will be back next week, and then you've only got me for a couple of weeks, because then I go to the UK and Audrey's going to be taking over as host for a few weeks while I'm away. So I hope you guys all have an amazing week. Eric, thanks again. We cannot wait for your show that's going to be happening on August 6th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And I appreciate you all. Remember, we are giving away a prize to somebody who engages with us the most over the next month, and we want that to be you. So make sure that you engage not only with the show, but also our posts on LinkedIn, and you could be the big winner. We are announcing the big winner for June later on today. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. And Eric, once again,